Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Let's Max Warframe, where today we're going to be taking a look at one of the brand new weapons released in update 17.5, the brand new primary shotgun, the Convectrix. Now this weapon is essentially a corpus phage with a couple of different mechanics to it. When you left click, the two beams start out wide and bring themselves to the centre, focusing the beam and damaging enemies in an area in front of you. The secondary fire has it where the beam starts fully focused in the centre and then expands outwards, hitting enemies in the area in front of you. Now it's an interesting mechanic, but how does the actual damage, stack up? Well, with a base damage of 100, the majority 80 coming in the form of slash, and 10 each as both impact and puncture, definitely not a low damage weapon at all. Obviously this is going to be split between the two beams, so unless the beam is fully converged in front of you, remember you're only going to be doing half the amount of damage shown. It also comes with a pretty low 10% critical chance, 200% multiplier, but a pretty damn decent 25% status chance, which is not bad at all. It also has a base range of 25 meters, which is pretty good, although could be seen as a downside since this does mean that it has a max range of 25 meters, and anything beyond that it cannot hit at all. Now, does this mean the Convectrix has no downsides? No, not at all. In fact, it has one fairly major one, which is its primary feature, the convergence of the beams and the fire modes available. This weapon and the way it's set up is pretty much an infested killer, and that's because of the fire modes. If you hold the left click to focus the wide beam into the narrow beam, it means that if you're trying to kill maybe a single target in front of you, like if you're doing against the Grineer or the Corrupted, you are going to be doing 0 damage until those beams converge, and if there's no targets around him, essentially you're doing 0 damage as well. So essentially you're using ammo to do no damage to anyone whatsoever. Also, starting with that wide beam, more often than not you'll do things like blow out windows on corpus ships, or the corpus freezing containers that will slow you down, so to be honest it becomes more of a hazard than a help. And if you start with the alt fire, having the beam fully focused, if you're not careful, the beam expands outwards so quickly that your beam is now either side of the target's head. Of course you can click the middle mouse button repeatedly to try and feather it a bit, but that's not only lowering your damage output, the likelihood is you're going to ruin your mouse in the process. In addition to that, the ammo economy is pretty terrible, so ammo mutation is definitely something that's needed on here. Okay, so let's move on to starting to mod the Convectrix. Now it comes with a couple of polarities as standard. I'm not entirely sure what they are at the moment, I can't quite remember before I did the former. However, we're going to add 5 former to the weapon, and you're going to end up with a total of 4 Vs and 2 dashes. Now we've got a bunch of mods remaining the same between the 3 builds. Prime point blank for damage, Hell's Chamber for multi-shot, Shotgun Spaz, which is going to increase the fire rate, which also increases the damage output, and shotgun ammo mutation to really help against that really high ammo consumption. Now in terms of the way we're going to build it, we're going to build for straight up elemental. So for the Grineer we're going to go Chilling Grasp and Contagious Spread, which is going to give us viral damage, and Charged Shell and Blaze for radiation damage against the heavy Grineer. Against the Corpus we're going to go Charged Shell and Chilling Grasp for the magnetic damage, and Contagious Spread for the toxin. I'm also going to go with Vicious Spread, which is going to increase the damage as well, and I haven't really noticed a downside to using Vicious Spread, so I decided to use this since obviously the way the former are, we can't really put in another dash elemental mod. Otherwise I probably would have gone with the Sweeping Serration mod, but unfortunately it doesn't quite fit. Now for the Void we're going to go for Corrosive and Heat again, so we're going to go Contagious Spread, Charged Shell for the Corrosive, Incendiary Coat and Blaze for the heat damage. And obviously if you want to go for the viral damage for the corrupted, the corrosive projection build even, then you can obviously switch out Charged Shell for Chilling Grasp, and then it will give you the viral heat combo that you need for that. So do I think it's worth the build cost and the time and form to max it? And I'm going to give a bit of a two-part answer. It's not a bad weapon, it does do decent damage, and the status is enough that it's going to cut enemies into bits more often than not, making it a perfect weapon for a Desecrate Necros. But for me, the way that the fire modes work absolutely ruin it for me. It makes it only realistically useful against the infested, due to the fact that obviously the way that they swarm at you, at which point it does become an incredible room clearer. However, against single targets you have wasted time, wasted ammo, especially when you start getting to higher levels, really it can be a bit of an annoyance. I didn't really enjoy playing with it very much at all. I really wanted to like it as well. As I say, it does do decent damage and it looks incredible, but at least for me it's lacking that all important fun factor. So my answer is this: build it, try it to see if you like the mechanics, and if you like the mechanics of it, then it's worth it because its damage is decent, it's actually a pretty good weapon. At the end of the day, a weapon being good or doing good damage doesn't necessarily make it good for everyone. Something like the Soma Prime is a good weapon, but I personally don't like it because I find it pretty bland and boring. But that doesn't make it any less good. We're all individuals and we all like something different, which is fantastic. The Convectrix is going to be one of those weapons, loved by some, disliked by others, purely because of its mechanics, much like the original Phage. I refuse to call it a bad weapon because it just isn't bad. It's just something that I personally didn't enjoy. In terms of differing builds and other mods to consider for the Convectrix are something like Sweeping Serration for more slash damage. You could even go for the dual stat mods if you want to save on space and former. I found it to be pretty ineffective and didn't really proc enough for me to consider the actual elemental damage loss. But obviously you can try it if you like it, go for it. Combustion Beam at low to mid level is actually pretty damn good fun. And you could always put on Seeking Fury for some punch through, so there are a few options for customization on this. But essentially, decent damage, fantastic looking, but mechanics that will divide opinion. The Convectrix is not a bad weapon, definitely not. And it will shred through many level 100 enemies pretty quickly. But it's definitely not for everyone, myself included. Definitely worth the former provided you like the mechanics. As always guys, many thanks for watching and I shall see you in the next episode.